Our world, as we might agree, is cracked. There's a crack that runs along the whole of our history, and it's a crack so deep that it runs along not only in our paradigm, but it runs along our languages, our social systems, our entire societies, and of course our human relationships, our familial connections, our relationship, love connections even. This crack must be fixed and mended, and it can only be fixed and mended once we understand it. This is the basic thought behind this this little channel that I've been doing and that I'm about to shut down, at least for a while, or maybe for good, I don't know. So it's all an experiment. I'm trying to communicate something to you, or something that I found years and years ago, this key discovery about the seed pattern, the mark pattern, which is our basic patterning, as I found in my research work. And I found that it was broken, and it is broken. And this is what I've been trying to somehow present to you, and it's like really well documented, really well illustrated, and really like super well backed. But for some reason, I'm really having difficulty and trouble with communicating it and sharing it. So I figured this YouTube thing would work, but it seems like, again, it's kind of a dead end, or maybe not. In many ways, it's not. But I need to shift gear, so I decided to end the Mago series here. At least for a while, at least in this form. And I think I'm going to return to just finishing the book, because what I've shared with you so far is actually the finished, like 99% finished text that I've worked out and I've been working on for many years now. So the crack that runs along, and hereby I greet you, my friends, back on this channel for maybe the last night shift. So to sum up our previous chapters, particularly of the Mago story, and all of this, of course, you can read online. There's so much stuff that I've uploaded, I put on the internet on my 3 websites, and particularly all of this that I'm sharing here in the Mago series, you can find at magmag.org on this website. Under Mag Manifesto and the Mag one, you can see the Mag structure. What I mean by Mag structure, this trinary concentric seed structure that is to be found everywhere in the universe, everywhere, physical, non-physical, all fields and all scales, and that this was broken. And this is my great discovery, revelation, that this is broken in language, and particularly certain relatively newer language families, namely the Semitic and the Indo-European. And this you can see very well illustrated and documented on particularly this last website of mine. And you can, so if you want to step further and see illustrations of the historical tableau that we've been calling Mago, that I call Mago, which shows the history of the mug being cracked and the crack spreading throughout history. You can check that out also on my website. There's ton of stuff, and particularly where you see Leonardo's painting, like in the Mago part, under the Leonardo's painting of the Messiah of the world, which is Mago 4, and this book is called The One. Underneath that you see outline, read outline, and if you click on that you will be able to see all of what we've talked about already, King, Priest, Girl, Beast, which is the first book of Mago, the Renaissance story, which already shows us that the world is cracked in two, and there are two programs, basically two agencies. One, a malevolent one, which is very well run, and another one, the other one, the ancient holistic paradigm, which is what we call the magical tradition, which runs along and which is about to disappear for a long time in Europe at this time in the 15th century. And we talked about the country and culture of the Mag, and you see these clashing radically and categorically. The Mag breaking paradigm and the Mag, the magic paradigm, they clash already 500 years ago. And then in Mago 2 we go back to Sumeria, where this clash, this breaking, this crack originates. And then we talked about Abraham and Abraham's Sargon, and how like this is such an amazing forgery of history. It's such a coup, it's such a hoax. It's such an insane deception that we have to wake up from, which is when you see merging two traditions, the Akkadian and the Hebrew one, which basically is the Arab and the Jewish one in a certain way, and how the whole so-called Semitic tradition begins to grow and swell, and this virus program, the seed broken program, spreads with patriarchy and this system of colonial patriarchy, which is the Mag broken program, the seed broken program. Colonial patriarchy begins to spread and create these monster empires. And then what comes after the portrait of the beast in Mago 2 is the priestess. And here in my book, in the big research book that I'm writing currently, I have tons of material. I just have to put it together and make it readable, which is what I'm gonna actually go back to, leaving this YouTube what is it, like a vessel for a while, at least a vessel for information. So talking about the priestess in my book, I go back to Sumeria. Now, to understand Sumeria is very, very, very key, because Sumeria represents, at least for the Indo-European mind and psyche, the last place of Eden, of a happy life and a good system. This is basically what we call Eden. Of course, there are previous eras and other times and places of Eden in human civilization, but for us, for not saying white, not saying Western, but for the Indo-European psyche, which is by now fully occupied by the Semitic and Indo-European language programs. So the source land of this Indo-European civilization is Sumeria, at least to a very great extent. We will find out, we can find out, and you will find out from my book, but not here, not now. I'm not going to go into detail. But how much Sumeria was the source land of our psyche, and how actually there are other parts of Indo-Europe, let's say, that have contained the same quality and kind of magical, Mago-based, seed-based, atomic-based, so holistic and original and organic civilization, because there was also the Carpathian and actually other parts of Europe where you can find not quite as old, but actually yes, there are like really old artifacts too, which refer to the same kind of civilization, which is basically, as I said, seed-based, but also has the feminine goddess. And there is proof even in Europe of the cult of the goddess, the feminine, which is the cult of the soul also, as we have seen. So, back to Sumeria and back to the priestess, like really briefly. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm not even going to go into my book and all the research material, because it would just like really drag out. And no, you have to read the book. If you're interested, read the book. I hope there will come a time very shortly when the book will be available, and whoever's really interested will be able to have like all the evidence, because it's like it's evidence. This is all. It's like a court case where we're sitting in a courtroom, basically, like an invisible, subconscious, unconscious courtroom where there's a case. There is a murder case, and the case is basically like I've already presented to you several cases of Abraham, of the beast, of the king, the murder of La Bella Simonetta. These are all cases, but ultimately there's a huge, like, grand meta case of human history, which is that there's a hoax, and the hoax is covering up the fact that there's a great crack running along civilization, our paradigm, and is based on basically a bad program appearing and devouring the original good program. This is what's up. Okay, back to Sumeria, from which place and time and civilization the bad program that we call the Abrahamic seed-splitting, seed-breaking program sprang. So the seed in language, when it was holistic, like as in Sumeria, and then the seed of language were already broken in the Semitic program. Very, very clear, and it's really clear as daylight that this was introduced by patriarchy, the seed breaking, the he, she, right, the gender. So, as I've already said many times, and I'm going to state it again, the key thing, the summa summarum, really the ultimate key point is that to really go back to our original program, the good and holistic and vitally compatible program, we must take gender out of language. And this will also run along like not a crack but a healing program along all the different aspects of our life and society. I'm sure of that. So Sumeria, the Sumerian civilization, I am not going to go into it, is like, it's a high civilization, Sumerian. It's like the pyramid civilization. This is the same level, even further high up, because you don't actually need to build anything physical to reach divinity. You know, megalomania is already always a sign of, and megalithic constructions are already a sign of some kind of weakening of psychic powers. So Sumeria, super high civilization, free, independent, wealthy, and prosperous, and just city-states all over Mesopotamia, which is, you know, current day Iraq, more or less, the Middle East, which was once a flourishing civilization, today very, very far from it, as far as you can be from such a just and happy civilization and paradigm and society and system. So yeah, once it was like a magical high civilization, with the cult of the goddess and the basic equality between the people. In my book, you will be able to read, hopefully, inshallah, that the crack was already to be found, of course, like in the deep layers of Sumerian civilization. Patriarchy already appeared there. What was to become patriarchy? Yes. So some kind of a turn, like a turn of the poles or something, a shift of balance, an imbalance basically already in Sumeria. But like the holistic, the high time of Sumeria was indeed a very, very, very high, super high, and wonderful, wonderful, beautiful civilization. So cities like Ur, Uruk, Kish, Lagash, and so on. The artifacts found here, especially Ur and Uruk, are, you know, point to a certain, not certain, like very definite divinity of humanity and human life. So actually, if you're interested, there's a game. I reconstructed it by myself from the internet. This is a game, it's like a table game. Okay, this is a really poor, sad little version, but it's something I reconstructed, and I was so curious of the mindset and the logic and just the whole vibe of Sumeria that I reconstructed this game, table game that precedes chess, before chess, and I guess even backgammon. This game was widespread throughout the whole Middle East and Near East and Mediterranean region even. Table games like this found by archaeology. And the first one was found, and the key one, in the royal tomb of Ur, the city of Ur, during the excavation, and they reconstructed the game, of course, like, you know, says who, you may ask, and that's why I started playing with it. It's the royal game of Ur. This is how you find it on the internet. And you know, it's curious to think about it, because obviously it was a magical game, and I think there's probably much more to it than the rivalry of two parties playing a table game. It feels like it's kind of a divination, closer to the I Ching, the Yi King, some kind of divination, very magical, very mystical. So if you know you like games and you like even just playing in your mind with like time travel, you know, please like check it out. You can find it on the internet, the Royal Game of Ur, and you just get into this other zone, other mentality before chess, which is, you know, the kill or get killed paradigm, and the paradigm of killer and victim. So Sumeria was a peaceful paradigm, peaceful, where there was equality and love and the balance and kind of tango, you can imagine, between the sexes and between the races. So this is a kind of lost Eden in our psyche. Like, you know, we also have other images and other myths of the sunken happy land, like Atlantis, or going back even to Mu, where we can, and we do go back. We have already gone back to Mu in one of our previous chapters. So where I'm going to take this further is, okay, so the story of the priestess. And this priestess is said to have been the first priestess of the first poetess of history. Her name here, her historical name is Enheduanna, and she was a priestess right around the time of Abraham, who abolished the power of women and the power of the goddess. This chick, this priestess, was a priestess, poetess, Enheduanna. She was a temple woman, right? So priestess, who also wrote holy hymns and poems to the goddess. And in these poems you can already see and feel the coming darkness. So the darkness of patriarchy was already on the horizon, and even already in destruction, in destructive mode. So the crack was already happening in society when this priestess, my heroine in Mago 2, one of my heroines in Mago 2, the priestess was kind of a key figure in, and she was by no means, like the media says now, she has some hype, that she was the first poetess. You can imagine that she wasn't the first. She was probably the last holy poetess, and especially last like high priestess, princess, so she was a high priestess, right? No more priestesses after this. I mean, in the Semitic tradition, there are no priestesses. This just does not exist. So, although tradition says that the priestess Enheduanna was the daughter of King Sargon, it's kind of hard to imagine she was exactly on the other side. She was from the other tradition, the magical tradition, whereas Abraham broke this. It's very hard to imagine that she was actually practically the daughter, of course, because we identified Abraham and Sargon, right? So they say she was the daughter of Sargon, who is identical with Abraham, but it's not really plausible. She must, but even if she was, they were arch enemies. I mean, the first godfather, was the arch enemy of the tradition that the priestess represented. And he actually abolished the whole tradition that the priestess represented. The cult and respect of the feminine, right? Through the gender break, by bringing in a system where you don't even have a word for the goddess or the priestess, and the she becomes inferior. So this is what the priestess story is, and I go into details about the cult of the goddess and certain intricacies of religion and cult at this time in Sumeria. There's a lot of very interesting specificities. And then in Mago 2, there's the story of the queen and the boy. These are two further books in Mago 2. and quite extensive, and I'm not going to go into detail again. But the queen is Semiramis, who is who's the heroine, and the point of her is like you understand her weight and significance once you understand the fact that she was non-Semitic. She must have been non-Semitic, just like Jesus, right? And Buddha, and the Buddha, of course. And so many other key figures like Attila, Arthur also, and so many other figures who were fighting against the great conspiracy represented by the seed-breaking model and tradition and pattern, right? So the Queen Semiramis, who recreated the cult of probably the goddess and the ancient cult, magical cult, the non-broken seed cult in Babylon. Already this was in the midst of darkness spreading, but she stopped time for a while and brought back the magical tradition. And then she's related to the boy, and this boy in Mago too, this boy that I found, it's a beautiful story, and I had to use a lot of intuition to connect the dots. And but there are evidences, like pieces of evidence from history, that the picture really does come together between the whole picture ultimately, right? The two big traditions, the good and the bad, and these figures, the princess and also the queen and also the boy, representing the magical, the non-Semitic magical culture. So there's a figure, the boy, who is this Armenian Prince Ara, a legendary figure, but also historical figure, who was, according to legend, the lover of the Queen Semiramis. And they had a conflict of sorts, and finally there was a battle, a war that broke out between them, and the boy got killed. So it's kind of an inversion of the Renaissance story, where an innocent girl gets killed. Here, a guy gets killed, but not actually by the real enemy, but by his ally and lover, who is Semiramis. And then this story goes into like very beautiful other areas, territories of the Armenian ancient religion and culture and civilization. We go into Urartu and Bactria, all of this in my book, not here, not now, but a very, very special, magical, beautiful ancient civilization that, you know, the tradition of that is still alive and is carried on in the Caucasus and around. And this is what the boy represents. And then there's Plato's legend of a man who dies and then comes back from death, and Plato calls him Air. And there's this legend of the boy rising again, and there is, indeed in history also, in the story of Semiramis and the boy, there are many, many versions where the boy, the guy, the prince is killed, but then he rises from the dead from death. And a lot of stories say that she brought him back. The queen, so in love with him, brought him back from death. So it's a beautiful, beautiful story, and a love story, and mystical and mythical, and at the same time, you know, it's like we're in the middle of this crazy, bloody war, this world war between world war of worlds, and both the queen and the boy represent the good tradition. So there's this real whirlwind across history. And then in Mago 3, as you can check out on my website, I observe first through the figure of the Sibyl of Troy, with whom I have like a very special connection, I feel. The Sibyl of Troy brings us the story of Troy, and of course Troy also represents the ancient, like the clairvoyant tradition, the magical tradition. And what Troy represents, the same magical high culture, here we must also observe that at the same time, at the time of Troy, actually for me this is like my newest revelation, realization, discovery, that like all over Europe, actually, not only all over the globe, but all over Europe very specifically, there are these ancient traditions with artifacts like, suddenly turning up from the earth around the same time, at the time of Troy, which is like just more or less 1000 BC, which is 3000 years ago. In Europe, for example, I just found there's this culture called the Hallstatt culture, which has really, really rich artifacts, very similar to artifacts from Troy. It's the same exact civilization, magical, full of the seed, the Mag symbol. All over Europe, in Central Europe, this is also the Scythian, Hun culture. Everywhere, the Celtic, it's exactly the same, very same, similar artifacts all over Indo-Europe. And you can find the seed everywhere, everywhere. And so what I'm saying is that while colonial patriarchy is spreading and demoralizing the world and spreading like a virus disease, at the same time, we still have the high cultures all over the place, like upholding the original law, which is the seed, the original law of unity. And at the same time, while the Trojans are fighting against the seed-breaking tradition, also you see in a lot of other parts of the world, and now we're talking about Europe and Eurasia, these civilizations still in existence. So, high civilizations still in existence while the virus program is already spreading. And so around like 1000 BC, these high civilizations, high magical civilizations were still around, and then as darkness spreads, they are eliminated, erased, right? And then it happens just all over the globe slowly. And in Mago we observe how the ancient magical civilizations, the indigenous civilizations, are erased and overtaken by the seed-breaking program. In Mago 3, okay, so after Troy, Troy falls, and key high civilizations pop up in Europe throughout, like the Mycenaean and the Etruscan, and then all over Europe, certain like peaks of high civilization. This is the same people, the same law and paradigm that built like the Stonehenge and stuff. So
So Mago 3 continues with the appearance of the Greek Empire appears after the fall of Troy. Okay, after that there's the rise of the Roman Empire, which is the same colonial patriarchy as the Greek Empire was. The Roman Empire demolishes the ancient civilization, high civilization of the Etruscans, and the Etruscans fall, and I go into some detail about the Etruscans in Mago 3, and then very, very close after that comes Jesus from the Parthian Empire, which is similarly Magos, which means high, and it means of the seed at the same time in Hungarian language, of the seed, magyar. So Jesus comes also from the non-Semitic magical tradition, and then not long after Jesus falls and is obliterated and is fully forged and manipulated and plagiarized, then comes King Attila and King Arthur, and there's a high likelihood that they're the same person, which is also like a great revelation and kind of a shock how that can be. But of course, like, things really fall into place and come together, and so this also makes perfect sense that these two figures are one and the same, and that the great hoax, the great conspiracy, is trying to just fog our consciousness and memory, and just through this make it completely impossible for us to reach back to truth and our heritage and the legacy of these heroes of history who fought heroically against the growing darkness. And again, I cannot emphasize enough that all of this is basically the clash of language programs. The clash of civilizations is the clash of language programs. The magical one, which is according to the seed, like the Magyar, and then the seed-breaking one, which breaks the seed in its model, like very, very specifically. And such was the Semitic language family, and now such is the appearing Indo-European. Indo-European, like English, he, she, it, right? The three genders, brought on first by the Sanskrit, and then that spread the Greek, the Roman, which is Latin, and then all the colonies or all the lands and languages contaminated by the Roman Empire, and then the empires to come afterwards. So there's like a case of the global contamination. The globe, previously fully magical, now contaminated by the seed breaking programs through the language program of seed breaking, right? Semitic and Indo-European. And then the Chinese is another story, but it's kind of basically the same idea. Breaking the seed, breaking unity. Isolating the parts from each other and subordinating and usurping. It's all like one great global story of colonial patriarchy. Yeah, I mean, I've showed you everything. I've really showed you everything, and how this all goes back, like from the Renaissance through the high civilizations of society, all the way back to Mu. Like the holistic consciousness runs all the way back into our common past, and this is what we have to reach back to reunite ourselves as the human collective. Oh my God, all the work. I don't want to become redundant, and and say things over and over again, but all my work concerning the Mag and the tradition and reality of the Mag, right? Please, if you're interested, I mean, the thing is, who wouldn't be interested? This is like reality that's been hidden from us. And this is the big moment of revelation. The seed is the basic law of our universe. Seed, everywhere. The atomic structure is just everywhere and supposed to be in our languages, but it's not. And in language, the seed, the original law, is broken. So I do believe that this realization, and particularly like the seed itself, the Mag, is the Messiah, our Savior. Only this can save humanity from just complete amnesia. And amnesia means like you lose it. If you forget where you come from, you lose it. You're lost. You're hopelessly lost. We're lost. With the he, she, it on top of it, we're just so lost. We're so far away from understanding and being connected and being whole. So all in all, let's establish that the gender must be taken out of language and our psyche. Okay, I still didn't talk about Mago for certain outline of it you can see on my website, magmag.org. It's going to be in the book, but the point is that this crack that we've observed running along history runs all the way through the 20th century, which is like the craziest of crazy stories, the 20th century, like all the stuff that's gone down. It's just insane, like the violence and the bloodshed and the insanity and the manipulation and, you know, the marketing of evil and the bad program. It's just really just so out of control. Like the golem is just so out of control. Immorality, bad conscience, bad programs. It's just like humanity is running amok. The bad program is really running amok, out of control. It has to be stopped. And the only way is like, pull the plug through language. That's the only way. And of course, like, it entails a lot of things, like facing the truth, of course. And a lot of daily reconstruction in our relationships. And it's going to take a long time, all the therapy that we need to do on ourselves and each other to heal ourselves and to heal our systems. Yes, beginning with individual mechanisms and relationship mechanisms and collective group mechanisms. But ultimately, there is a system error, which is the gender program, which is responsible for basically most of our misprogrammation. But it has to be a joint venture between, the global collective decision to end the broken program and to basically patch up the gender issue. And our own effort to become whole and to become united and balanced and really regain our unity, individual and relational and collective, and greater collective unity, because the bonus of being reunited as a human collective is that we will instantly be reunited with nature and the cosmos, our initial allies, that we've made enemies of by now. Bravo, colonial patriarchy. It's like really big achievement to disconnect humanity from the rest of creation, including nature and the cosmos, and of course divinity. above all and be beyond everything else. So I've summed up this whole YouTube YouTube channel adventure, and I guess it's a little bit like a conquest. I try to conquer your attention and your mind and your heart, like I've been conquered by this whole story, and I'm just completely in awe of this certain take on history, which seems to be like a very crystal clear one through the crystal ball of the mug and the crack of the mug. So I really hope that I could do something, you know. I hope I can plant some seeds, because this package of discovery and revelations is, sometimes it feels very, very heavy, but of course everything is true, and the opposite of everything is also true. So as heavy as it might feel and seem, it's kind of you know, sweet burden, and it doesn't weigh. It lifts me up to know and see all of these things with a certain clarity. And I hope my world merges with yours, and that we have. I don't have to hope that we have a common ground, because I know that we have a common ground. I just really wish that humanity would achieve victory in feeling the union, the inner and outer union. So my last thought here is just a little joke. It's a little child's what is it? It's not a poem. It's something we used to say in the kindergarten. It's just a little rhyme, I guess, in Hungarian, which goes I don't know. Amerika, London, Párizs, kérem maga nem normális, which means America, London, Paris, please, sir, I guess you would translate to please, sir, you're not normal. By this, I'm just like sending out a little dove of peace as a message, that what America, London, and Paris are doing, as you know, these are like symbols and embodiments of colonial patriarchy, global colonial patriarchy, the great, what we call the great beast, which is also the great conspiracy, which is basically the virus program. You're not normal. It's not normal, but basically it's a program. It's America program, London, Paris. It's, you know, it's colonial patriarchy, and it's not normal. We have to end it. We have to return to the law of the steed. And hereby I end my endless monologue, and I'm gonna shift into a new gear, and basically I plan to rip a new gear, which is like step into a completely unknown territory for me on social media, which for me is like new land. It's you know, it's the newfound land, which is Instagram. So we're gonna move our attention and basically our not just format, but attention span and the genre to this other one. But we'll keep the YouTube videos, these little videos that I've been happy to make and to share. We will keep these as reference, and from here, so I will jump to the Instagram profile and back to actually finishing the books that I've been sketching to you. So God bless you, us. I wish us all the light of truth and unity. Peace.